What is going on, everyone? You're listening and watching to the On the Mark Wrestling Podcast, hosted by the Marks, for the Marks, and I am your host, Mr. OTM Kyle Gagliardi. And joining me this week isn't my good friend Jim Tucker. It is my good friend Erin Oros. Erin, how you doing this evening?
OTSN glue guy, he's back.
I refuse to call you the OTSN
You're
glue
the one
guy.
that invented the name.
Am I really the one that said that?
You literally called me that.
Oh, I guess that's a good nickname. I can just stick with you right now. It looks like Erica Marini from A Work in Progress is watching live with us, as is her co-host, Brent Piles. He put on pants for this, so that is good news for us, Erin. Erin, are you wearing any pants right now?
I am wearing pants. It's too cold not to wear pants.
That is true. We had a little bit of a heat wave here in Northwest Indiana, and that was a big tease. And it was not like second winter, like you know how we usually have like a second winter after a heat wave, but we went back to spring, and now we got to deal with this weather.
It's the worst. I don't know why I live here sometimes.
Oh, okay. Apparently, I did come up with that. Brent was watching a show live when I did, so I guess I should just stick with what I call you. But I figured I'd bring you in because you've been on these shows before, and I know we've talked about this in the past on this podcast, I believe, Erin. But believe it or not, to the people watching us live or listening at a later date, we have done wrestling reviews on YouTube for about 8 years now?
Oh, it might be longer than that. We were doing them in staircases after Survivor Series.
On a vertical camera?
Yep. Let's see. I mean, eight's probably a good number. 2013.
Yeah, and you can find all those videos too, see what we looked like years ago.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it is funny to look at now. It's just search Too Sweet Kyle and you'll be able to find all those. But obviously, we're live on Facebook.com/Pod on the Mark. To those who may be wondering why things may sound a little different or this show is just a different format, because Tucky isn't able to make it, and I'm not smart enough to figure out how to upload a podcast on my own. But Erin, before we get into everything, I got to remind everyone that OTM is a proud member of the Overtime Sports Network, and you can find the website at otsportsnetwork.wixsite.com/OTSN. Go check out the blogs. My boy Brent Piles, who is in the comments right now, he wrote a blog about WrestleMania Night 1. I wrote a blog about WrestleMania Night 2, and you can find all that on the website. Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at _OTSN so you can check out all that great content. But Erin, we originally were just going to talk about everything that happened during WrestleMania week, but it seemed like spring cleaning started a little early here today in the WWE because we had a few releases. Were you able to see all the releases that happened today?
Yeah, I follow, obviously, WWE on Twitter, but then some insider guys. And, I saw all the releases. Doesn't surprise me, but I know there's some that are a little controversial. So
yeah, let's go down this list real quick. We obviously, the biggest one, Samoa Joe, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, formerly known as the Iconics, Mickie James, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Kalisto, Bo Dallas, Wesley Blake, and just recently, about 25 minutes ago, Mojo Rawley. And I think it's obvious to say that Samoa Joe might be the most surprising name on this list, Erin, but there might be a different reason behind it. You've been seeing some things and rumors, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, do we know that was he even cleared to wrestle? So, that's one thing. Like, if WWE was, never going to clear the guy to wrestle, I could see why they would let him go. Or maybe he asked for his own release and was like, listen, I'll go somewhere else and get somewhere cleared to wrestle. So, he was good on commentary, but you knew that's not what he wanted to do. So, there's still some unanswered questions there with him. And I know that he's been kind of beat up through his WWE run. So, that you hear this thing in sports where your best ability is availability. And, with him, he just maybe wasn't there with all his injuries that he had. So who knows? I guess I'm sure we'll hear more as stuff goes on. You'll hear more of the story of it, but it sucks because he's great.
I know I tweeted about this and numerous people have commented on it before, and you probably will agree with me 100%. The fact that Samoa Joe was never WWE champion, it's just astounding to think about because that guy was amazing on the mic, solid in ring. I mean, for a big guy, he could go with any of the cruiserweights. Like, he had fantastic matches with Finn Balor and Sami Zayn. So the fact that he never got to hold that championship right there, I feel like that was a wasted run. Yeah, he was successful in NXT, but the fact that he didn't really accomplish much on the main roster, that kind of sucks, right?
Yeah, and somebody I follow was like, when he was at like his peak in WWE, I think, and I hate the name of this paper, the Great Balls of Fire, whatever it was, he lost to Lesnar.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are like, he should have won there. I mean, he was on fire, and like you said on the mic, he was great. He was great as a heel, great even as a tweener, if you wanted to like him not be a full heel or not, but
just a badass.
Yo, he was. And he had everything. And, you might take a look at him and be like, oh, he's just some fat guy, but he was great. It sucks that, his thing ends in WWE without him holding that belt, because he definitely should have at least once.
So let's say he is medically cleared. He can wrestle. Obviously, the 90-day thing goes into play. So about mid-July is where I think that 90 days would be up. If you're a company like, obviously, AEW or Impact Wrestling or New Japan, you got to think that all of these companies are going to be offering Samoa Joe big-time deals.
Yeah, and, I saw he tweeted like, hey, I'm trying to stay in shape or try and get in shape in like 90 days or something. He was kind of hinted that 90 days thing. So, I mean, if you're AEW, I don't know how you don't just snatch him up right away. He could be the number one heel at that company literally instantaneously the moment he walks on. But if they're kind of worried about bringing another big name in right away, I mean, New Japan, anywhere, Impact, anywhere.
Well, New Japan would be nice because I believe, and people that are watching live can correct me if they're wrong, I don't think he's ever ventured over to New Japan. If he did, maybe it was for a one-off here and there. But I see a lot of people bringing up the fact Impact Wrestling is now back on Thursday nights. That's where Samoa Joe was signed at before WWE. Right. So that fit makes a lot of sense. But that obviously was the biggest name. The Iconics, very disappointing, especially when they just recently split a couple months ago. Billie Kay literally was just on WrestleMania, and here they are. She's the first one released. Then we hear about Peyton Royce. What was the entire point of even breaking up the Iconics, Erin?
It didn't make any sense to me. Like, they were a great tag team together. They had, their little heelish thing that they were doing. And when the women's tag division isn't exactly a division I call loaded, so it's like, no. It made no sense at all. I don't know if, Vince or whoever wanted to see if any one of them would stand out as a solo. And when they split them up, Billie Kay was kind of doing her own like comical thing that I thought was actually working.
It was.
So I'm kind of confused by all that. But as I was telling you kind of off camera, I think the women's bar is a lot higher than it used to be. And I think now they're kind of looking at it in this perspective to where it's like, could you see Billie Kay or Peyton Royce main eventing against Charlotte, main eventing against Sasha Banks, main eventing against Bayley? I don't, and that's not a knock on them. They can still do their own thing, especially it's a tag team. But I think that's kind of the bar now, and I think the bar has been raised so high that if you don't fit it or if you're not incredibly over, you have a chance of getting let go.
Absolutely, and it looks like besides some joint shows with TNA back in the day, that Samoa Joe has never been in New Japan. So that, I think that's where I personally want him to go first. Yeah. I mean, obviously, he eventually can get over to AEW, but we've talked about this before too. AEW has snagged up a lot of talent. The first one that comes to head, former WWE superstar Rusev, Miro now. They really haven't figured out anything for him quite yet in AEW, and they already have their homegrown talent there in All Elite Wrestling that needs to get their shine as well. So I don't think Joe hopping over to AEW right away is the right move. But for some people like Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, completely different story, because that AEW women's division is not great.
Yeah, and again, when you like a company like AEW, you don't. I feel like they don't want to be labeled as like the backup plan for WWE stars. You know what I mean? So it's not like
graveyard.
Yeah, exactly. And when I was listening to the podcast with Jericho and Stone Cold, he was kind of saying like when the company originally started, the one big thing that they needed were names. You need to bring somebody in. I think they have those now. I think it's been like around a year they've been around. They've kind of
a little over a year.
Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, that they've kind of built those names up.
Hangman Page.
Stream audience. So I don't think that Samoa Joe's a guy they need right away, but I think eventually, I mean, the guy is just too good to not at least make an offer to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and once again, we don't know his medical status. I'm sure things are going to come out here in the near future. We'll hear stories from these guys, especially after the 90 days. I guarantee you all these superstars will be on some sort of podcast. Hell, maybe they might be on this podcast right here. You never know. You never want to limit yourself.
Yep.
But the other names here, Mickie James, not a surprise. She's a veteran. She's great. But, there's only so much you can do with somebody like that. Chelsea Green is an interesting release just based on the fact that she unfortunately had some injuries. They called her up to the main roster, and then she got hurt the week that she debuted. So they never really gave her a fair shot, I would say.
And that, you know what? And that's just sometimes a part of this business, and along with a lot of things in life. Sometimes you just don't get a fair hand and things don't fall your way. And, again, with the more available options now around with wrestling companies, I think she'll get back on her feet relatively quickly. But again, that's just a part of the business, I think.
It looks like our buddy Ryan Vogus chiming in. Part of my soul died when Peyton left. Yeah, I was very sad. I look back at past tweets, and in like 2016, I was talking about how stunning Peyton was. Wow. I sounded like a very horny young man back in the day. Brent's chiming in. AEW should definitely sign her. Yeah, Chelsea Green, I think he's talking about. Yeah, Green is going to be a megastar. She did some things. I forgot her previous company. It might have been Impact. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, but her gimmick was like a hot mess, and it was really entertaining and really over. So that would be interesting. But Tucker, Kalisto, Bo Dallas, Wesley Blake, and now Mojo Rawley. I think we can say that those are justified, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hated Mojo Rawley, so I'm glad that he's gone. The only little bit of regret, or I don't know, little thing I would have liked to see maybe, I would have been very interested if they would have brought in Bo Dallas as Bray Wyatt. Now, they're actually brothers. Somehow intertwine that at some point, making him a Wyatt member family. But again, I mean, with how much talent there is in WWE, you're gonna see releases. I mean, it just is what it is. It sucks, but it's inevitable. So, and
also with how many people are being signed to NXT nowadays, I feel like every month there's like a new class going into NXT. Like they literally just signed an NCAA heavyweight champion after he won. They're like, here you go, and they put him on the NXT Takeover Stand to Deliver. He was ringside, so Triple H is not wasting any time getting these next people ready. And I think Vince realizes that he's getting all these rejects on the main roster, and he's just going to try to trim that fat off, so to say.
Yep. It's you see it every year, and with the way this business is, it's inevitable. So it sucks, but just got to move on.
Yeah. And speaking of moving on, we're going to move on to NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver. We won't get into much detail here, but I feel as we should definitely discuss some of the big things that happened. First off, were you able to see Takeover in its entirety?
Most of it. I'm trying to remember all the matches that were on it. I think I saw everything but the tag.
You talking about the men's tag?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I didn't see.
Well, we can briefly talk about that then now. MSK ended up winning the NXT Tag Team Championships. They actually were on that show, that Warrior Wrestling show that I attended last summer. Yeah. They were known as the Little Rascals there. And here they are, already NXT champions on WrestleMania week. I thought that was pretty cool. Have you been able to see any of their actions so far? Do you have an opinion on them or not really?
I haven't seen a whole lot. I tune in to NXT, I tune in to AEW. Now I'm glad that they're on separate shows or at separate days.
Nights,
that helps. But not really. I have kind of been more, I guess, up to date on kind of the bigger main events team with the women and the men. But I'll have to watch because I only hear good things about that and about them. So
yeah, they're a very fun team to watch. Very innovative style of offense. It seemed like the small crowd that was there, though, some of them were booing, but that's typical NXT fans. They boo the good guys and they cheer for the heels because that's the cool thing to do in professional wrestling, as you know that. But you were speaking of the women's division. The main event was Raquel Gonzalez versus Io Shirai. Io had a fantastic run, but Raquel Gonzalez, it was her night. It was her time. She ended up getting the win here in a very good matchup. From what you've seen of Raquel Gonzalez so far, do you think this championship is justified? Does she fit in with the rest of the NXT women's champions of the past?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I think she fits in with the mold that WWE is trying to establish with these bigger, more athletic women. Charlotte, Rhea Ripley, just to name a couple. She works for me. I think, again, I don't know how long it's going to be. I mean, I'm thinking she might get rushed. I mean, Rhea was put into the scene pretty quickly. I mean, she's been on 2 WrestleManias already and hasn't been a full timer on.
Isn't that crazy to think about that she's already had 2 WrestleMania matches?
Insane. So
she's 25, I believe, too.
Yeah, 24, 25. She's so young, but yeah, Raquel fits that mold. I think that that they're going for now, and I think that she meets the bar, the standard that they're trying to set. And had a really good run.
Yeah,
I mean, she's been great, and I think it's always more of a challenge for those Japanese speakers where they can't really it's like broken English to really buy into. But she's been great. So is Asuka.
I like the vignettes that they do in NXT too. I think it helps people that have that language barrier.
Yeah, so I like it. Do you see her and Dakota having something going on there?
So Taya Valkyrie, I don't know if you've ever heard of that name. She just got signed. She's Frankie Monet now in NXT. She interrupted Raquel's little thing that she was having. So maybe they're going to go in that direction.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see Dakota maybe getting a shot. And it's crazy to me that Dakota Kai has never been champion because she's been consistently awesome. And like Brent said, though, with Raquel, she has main roster written all over her. She does, and she would fit in that women's division.
Vince loves that.
Let's look at this NXT Women's Championship history here. Big names: Paige the first, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Asuka, Ember Moon, Shayna Baszler, Kairi Sane, Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, and now Raquel Gonzalez.
I mean, I'm telling you, the women's division has such a high bar now, which is great. I mean, it should be. And, and then just think of the women that haven't won that, like Becky Lynch.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think eventually I'll make her way back in there. So the bar is really high right now, and I think she fits the mold that they're looking for.
Absolutely. I think Raquel deserves it. And like Brent said in the comments, Kai had that look in her eye on Tuesday night. I thought she was going to turn right there, but maybe they're kind of going with a slow build towards that. We also know that there is a new NXT champion, Kyrian Cross. He defeated Finn Balor, so he got his title back from the guy that ended up taking it from him. Overall thoughts on that matchup right there? I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, it was solid. Kyrian Cross, I just love the whole aura, the whole thing that he's got going on. It's pretty. It was definitely interesting. And Finn, I think he's kind of not reinvented himself, but I think once he was at the main roster, I think they had no idea what to do with him.
He's a smaller guy for the main roster.
Yeah, and you know how Vince is with these smaller guys. So it's so he goes back down to NXT, and I think he is that his persona in NXT is what he should be.
Yep.
Going forward. I mean, he's kind of, I wouldn't call him a heel, but he's kind of like that.
He's a tweener. Cool
kind of persona. So I really like that. But I wasn't surprised that Kyrian Cross got his title back after he got hurt. So it was a pretty solid match. I'm curious what they do with Finn now, if he's going to stay down there, come back up to the main roster. But overall, it's pretty solid.
This is a very good point going back to the women's division in NXT. Ryan Voga said best part of the NXT women's division is they don't flip-flop the title, and winning always makes a star. I honestly didn't even think about that. And when you look at the history of that title, it doesn't flip much. I believe there's been 13 NXT women title reigns compared to probably 20-something on the men's side of things. So, yeah, that's definitely a good way of looking at it. I thought Kyrian Cross winning, though, was the right decision. I'm interested to see, though, what's next for Finn Balor. And something that kind of just popped in my head, what if Finn Balor comes on SmackDown on Friday and maybe starts a program with the Tribal Chief?
I mean, obviously, we're going to get into that, and I've got some things to say about that because I think with Roman, the level that he's at right now is so high that I am very curious to see where they go next with that. I honestly wasn't surprised, but I was a little surprised that he basically, that dominating ending where he pins both of them.
Hey, we'll get there. We'll get there. Don't steal all the goods.
Right, no, right. But in terms of Finn going up there, I don't think so. But I think.
Yeah, but what do you do with Finn Balor now?
I don't know. I could potentially see maybe a rematch with him and Cross, or maybe, but again, I don't know. He might stay in NXT for longer. Maybe he goes and has he already feuded with Walter? Has that already happened?
They tried to do it, and that was supposed to be an NXT UK championship match. I think now that they're actually traveling back and forth, that is something they could revisit. So I don't hate that.
He makes his way over there for a little bit. Honestly, I don't think he wants to leave. And I know a lot of those NXT guys feel the same way. So we'll see. Yeah. We can get in about that. But
so the last thing that I want to talk about, obviously, the main event from NXT TakeOver, Kyle O'Reilly defeated Adam Cole in what was an incredible unsanctioned match. Going into Mania, this was definitely the match of the week, no doubt. And some could even argue that even after WrestleMania, that this was the matchup of WrestleMania week. This was total nonstop action here, Erin. And I think the right guy went over. Adam Cole accomplished all that he needed to. And this makes Kyle O'Reilly look like a legitimate badass.
Big time. Yeah. I mean, this was all about storytelling. I mean, this was basically like a family, and then they split up, and then, they just went all over. I mean, they just beat the crap out of each other. I mean, you saw like the scars and the cuts and the bruises. I mean, they literally beat the crap out of each other. And again, this is big. I mean, Adam Cole, he had the longest NXT reign of all time, right?
You could argue that Adam Cole is the greatest NXT superstar. Exactly. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh, easily. So for him to put Kyle O'Reilly over, I mean, that puts Kyle O'Reilly in a whole different level now. So clearly they have faith that he can be a legit single star. So, again, I think with that conclusion of that match, it's like, all right, what's next for Adam Cole? Because, I mean, I feel like –
I think this feud – you didn't see NXT, did you?
No.
This feud is probably going to continue. They did a little footage from the hospital in the emergency room, and they were both getting wheeled in, and then Adam Cole was just yelling shit at him like, this isn't over. You're dead, man. You're a dead man. So I think they're definitely setting up maybe for one, maybe even two more matches. But after what we saw in that main event, why not continue with it, especially if you have nothing else for them?
Oh, yeah. I could see a trilogy coming here.
Like Brent said, it doesn't look like this feud is over from what we saw on Tuesday night.
Right. So, why not? Because, I mean, the first match was so good, that everything's there. It's really not that hard for either of them. Literally everything's there. The storyline basically writes itself. So I could see it for now. I'm very curious, though, because, you can't keep Cole down there forever. So I'm very curious to see what happens.
It looks like Brent doesn't want to see another one. My only point on that, Brent, is just if they don't have anything else for them, it's not like it's not going to be a bad match or a bad storytelling. Like these two have the history. So I don't know. I think let's see. Vogue is chiming in. He goes, they did everything they could. I agree with not wanting to see it.
I can agree with that. I think NXT can get creative to kind of, even if they have a second match, make it creative to where Cole loses because of something that has nothing to do with Kyle O'Reilly. Because I kind of agree. I don't think I would want to see like two more matches of this.
Yeah, two more would be overkill, but it definitely looks like they're going in a direction of at least one more, and maybe that will be the end-all, be-all of that feud. But overall, great pay-per-view from NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. I love the two-night formula even for them, but this was the most watched NXT TakeOver of all time, and I now think with that move to Tuesdays permanently, the next NXT TakeOver might be the most watched of all time, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You saw what AEW did was 1.2 million.
1.2. Yeah.
So it makes total sense to split them up because it just benefits nobody. And I know, like Jericho said, they're not a competition between one another, but low key they kind of are. So, but I think splitting it up definitely makes a lot of sense so that it gives, wrestling fans 3 nights in a row of wrestling. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, just think some weeks you'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because there will be takeovers on Saturdays, I'm assuming, once fans come back into the stands. So that'll be wild. But yeah, overall, NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver was very great, as was night one of WrestleMania. So let's just get right into that, Erin. The first matchup in front of the crowd. First off, let's talk about this. The rain was an issue. Yeah. For a lot of this WrestleMania. I know Vogus would know, who is watching right now, and he can comment on some stuff. He was there for both nights of WrestleMania. So there was a little bit of a delay. So they had to improvise and do these impromptu backstage interviews. Were you able to catch any of them?
Yeah, I saw that, and I was kind of looking on Twitter that they were having some weather delays, and then I saw Vogus with his disaster tweet or whatever you want to call it. Said it was a disaster going on here because it was pouring rain. But hey, sometimes you gotta improvise, and I think they did what they could, and then they got things going, and then there wasn't really any hiccups from there, so it wasn't a big deal.
No, it wasn't, and I like the way that they did those impromptu promos. I thought some people knocked it out of the park, like Kevin Owens and Big E and the New Day. Some people like Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon, they weren't meant to do promos from the top of their dome. So
no.
It was a good way to improvise. But the first matchup was the WWE Championship, Bobby Lashley taking on Drew McIntyre. And I think we both expected Drew McIntyre to get over in this moment and get that moment in front of all the fans. But he didn't. But regardless, Erin, I thought this was a really good matchup. For it being the first matchup on WrestleMania, I think that was the wise choice because you get Drew McIntyre's entrance and the fans can get very hyped for it. But Bobby Lashley winning, a surprise to many, definitely a surprise to me. What about you?
Yeah, big time swerve because when you saw them like breaking up the Hurt Business, so you're like, okay, this thing's going to be done. Like they're going to break up the Hurt Business. He's going to lose his belt and things are going to go dissolve later. But yeah, big swerve. I thought that they were going to give Drew that moment. I think they kind of did make him go first. I think in hindsight, he gets that WrestleMania moment that he really didn't have last year. But I'm with it. I love the Hurt Business. I loved everything that they put together. I love MVP being in his manager role. I really like it. So I don't hate it. And I love Drew. And I think Drew, him and Roman, I guess you can Roman kind of got on second half of the year, but Drew was great through this whole COVID process being a champion. So, and that they want to push Lashley. Lashley's been a lot better. I think at first I was kind of like, he's just big.
Well, as you can see with Vogus's comment here, he was way over with the crowd too at WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah. So, hey, got to ride the hot hand. And I'm sure that they'll figure it out from here. But Drew's obviously getting his rematch at the next pay-per-view. I love how they're doing the
WrestleMania Backlash.
Yeah, exactly.
They said it's a way for like new Peacock users to like understand the concept of it, which makes sense. Yeah, Mikey Wilson, that comment was horrible from Michael Cole. WrestleMania, I cringed when he said that, but Michael Cole's really good at his job, and you have to give those guys credit for having that impromptu rain delay because obviously that's not scripted, and they have to fill time, and they don't know when the show's going to start.
Yeah. And
what's crazy to guys like me and you, Michael Cole is the voice of our generation.
Oh, he is. He is. He really is. Like, it's odd not hearing or watching wrestling and not hearing Michael Cole. I mean, it really is. He's great. So, the WrestleMania. I didn't even know that he said that. That's pretty. He
did. Rough. But yeah, I thought that was a very good matchup to kick off WrestleMania on night one. Bobby Lashley retained his WWE Championship. After that, the women's gauntlet match. I don't think we should discuss that. It wasn't good. You don't have anything to say? Yeah, we won't discuss it. So let's move on to Seth Rollins versus Cesaro because this matchup was actually really good. Obviously, there was nothing on the line here like championships or number one contendership, but this probably was the top 5 matchup of WrestleMania week, and Cesaro gets over with a huge win over Seth Rollins, who is a former champion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is huge. I mean, this was basically just an homage to the Cesaro. It's like, hey, we're going to reward you for,
Oh, yeah, there was nip slips in that women's match. That is true. I forgot who it was. It might have been Dana or Mandy. Oh, wait, we can't confirm. Marini says, well, you missed Dana Brooks' boo, Brian.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Big homage to him. I mean, he's been grinding, man. That dude's a grinder now, albeit I think his character, for the most part, has been pretty stale, so that's kind of why they can't, like, push him. But this is big, and this is big for Rollins, putting him over now. Great. Now, here's the thing. Cesaro gets his big win at WrestleMania. They better book him correctly after this. He doesn't have to be in, like, the main event picture, but I mean, like, make him relevant at least because, Seth Rollins has been booked maybe him and Roman, the two best
in the past 5 years. Yes, in the past 5 years, those two are the top guys.
So you have Cesaro beat him clean. It's like, okay, you better do something with him. So I'm very curious to see what they do after this because you cannot beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania clean and then he goes back to his old self where he's, on dark matches losing to God knows who.
Yeah, and looks like we got a comment here from Bogus. I think the UFO is the move where he put Rollins on his back and he didn't even use his arms. Like, that was an insane feat. And I agree with you. I think obviously this is the biggest win in Cesaro's career, no doubt. But he doesn't need to be put right into that Roman Reigns major title scene because he's not going to win.
No.
Like, he's not going over Roman right now. Maybe he's being set up to face Apollo Crews, and that would be an interesting feud because now, as we will talk about here in a few minutes, Apollo Crews has a body with him. He has a new gimmick. So Cesaro, who coming off that big win against Rollins, going for the IC title.
That makes total sense.
It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, very, very good matchup. Very strong between. You could argue that those two are, and the guy that we're going to talk about next, the best workers in the WWE.
Yeah, and I know the guy that we're talking about next. And yeah, you can definitely say. I mean, Cesaro, he makes things that just look so effortless that I know if I tried to do, I would literally it wouldn't even.
And you're a pretty strong guy, so
it wouldn't
that's saying a lot.
Wouldn't even be. I mean, Seth Rollins is like 215 pounds, and he's swinging them like he's nothing. I mean, it's insane. But I agree with Bogus. I love Seth. He is untouchable.
Yeah, I know Erin is a huge Seth Rollins fan, and obviously a lot of people are because I don't know if you. Yeah, you did listen to the podcast. Chris Jericho commented. He goes, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. Those are Hall of Famers.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and we'll talk about Roman. This guy's on a different planet.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next guy we're going to talk about here is one of the best workers in the world. AJ Styles and Omos defeated the New Day to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions. Omos was a lot more impressive than I anticipated, Erin. I thought he moved very well and he had that dominant presence. And I didn't want to stop watching. Like, obviously, this is a feud that is fairly new, but like just him being 7'3", standing in that ring, I couldn't keep my eyes off of it.
No. And then, I mean, I just found myself looking like him standing over Xavier Woods, and it's like, this is literally like a man and a child, like an infant child. I mean, he is so big. It's so intriguing that they put him with AJ Styles, and now that they got the belts to roll with, I loved it. I mean, he draws me to the television. I mean, he is ginormous human being. So
yeah, and he's very athletic. And it looks like Vogus is chiming in with the Seth thing. The inevitable Seth babyface turn to face Roman will be huge. Yeah, that could definitely be a direction.
I mean, we'll get into it. I think that and one more thing are the only things you can do at this point, but we'll get.
Yeah, we'll get there. But and Brent said it. They showed just enough of Omos where you didn't overdo it.
Right.
And you kind of had AJ Styles, who we know can carry most of the workload, and then they still get over and they still win the championships.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they did their job. I mean, they basically did their job. I mean, I felt fairly confident that we all figured that AJ and Omos were going to win that one.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, they did enough with him to not overdo it, but to show like, shit, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah, and I'm very intrigued to see what direction they go. Obviously, it probably won't be a long tag team title reign because I'm sure they have visions of making Omos his own single star. And of course, you got to get AJ Styles back into singles competition. But for the time being, I like that decision. So it made a lot of sense. And now AJ Styles is officially a Grand Slam champion. So the guy that people were worried about coming over to WWE and not being utilized, one of the greatest to do it in the past decade.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Vince had to sell him and be like, listen, dude, we'll take care of you. Like, we'll make you a WWE Hall of Famer, even though you're only going to be here for 6 or 7 years. You know what I mean? So she makes a good point. I think that's the only reason they did it was to make him a Grand Slam champion. I think inevitably, the same with Drew McIntyre. I think they're kind of giving Drew like titles just to make him a Hall of Famer because I think inevitably Vince wants to make him a Hall of Famer.
You got to build up resumes, and championships matter.
They do, and I think with like Drew's case, like since Vince called him like the chosen one, I think he wants to rectify that. But with AJ Styles, I think the only reason he got those belts was to be a Grand Slam champion. I think that makes a lot of sense. But
yeah, so the split will be coming. Guarantee it'll be soon, but very impressive debut for Omos. His first match on WrestleMania, and he wins the tag team championships with AJ Styles. And after that, Braun Strowman defeated Shane McMahon in a steel cage match. This was a lot better than the feud itself. We got to see that cool spot with Braun Strowman ripping the cage and Shane taking that bump from the top. Overall, I didn't hate it. What did you think about this steel cage?
No, I agree. Like, the build was cringeworthy. I mean, it was kind of rough, but the match in and of itself, I thought, I guess, did its job with, I mean, what do you expect with a Braun Strowman, a guy that has muscles popping out of himself and he's like 7 foot tall versus Shane McMahon? I mean, and realistically, like, I think that was the best that they could kind of do with that situation. It wasn't bad. I think that they just brought in. They needed something for Braun, because I think they want to keep Braun relevant. I think that's
you gotta keep that guy
right. So I think Shane. Shane does really, for not being like I'm obviously a full-time wrestler. The guy does well when put in big spots, obviously. Yeah. So I think this was just a whole move to keep Braun relevant. Obviously, he showed up to maybe try and get a title shot. That didn't work out for him, but yeah, I mean, it did its job. I can't complain, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I tweeted it, and I was like, you can hate Shane McMahon, but you got to respect him, because every time he gets into a program, he brings it in the ring and he risks his body. And that bump was insane. Vogus chiming in, not an original thought, but the AJ match at Mania will be the new Undertaker match. Okay, so you're saying like getting a match with AJ Styles at WrestleMania is like getting a match with the Undertaker? I think that's what he's getting at. Brent from A Work in Progress, he said he liked that cage match 10 times more than he thought I would. Yes, I agree with you there. And Mikey Wilson says it was hard to feel sorry for Braun claiming to be bullied. Yeah, the storyline was horrible. Trust me, we hated it, but for what we got, it wasn't that bad. But after that, this was a very surprisingly good match. You had Bad Bunny and Damian Priest defeat The Miz and John Morrison. Bad Bunny shined in this match, Aaron. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And I think Bad Bunny took this seriously. He sold like a professional, and he was hitting moves that people on the main roster probably can't do.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the point that he took it seriously. Like, he took this seriously. He took the opportunity seriously. Because, again, like, he not only doesn't want to embarrass himself, but he doesn't want to embarrass The Miz, John Morrison, Priest. He doesn't.
Priest especially,
right, yeah. Exactly. So, there's a lot riding on a guy's shoulders that's never done this before. So, it was cool. Like, I know WWE's trying to bring, like, we'll talk about a little later with the Logan Paul thing. I think they're trying to bring in celebrities, bring in people like this, like Bad Bunny, like musical and Twitter, whatever celebrities that you want to call Logan Paul. But to kind of do these sort of things just to bring in viewers. And yeah, I mean, it was solid. I mean, it's another thing that did its job. So and he was a lot better than I thought he was going to be. So worked out.
Yeah, and it was definitely one of the things that stood out from WrestleMania week for me, which is surprising. I mean, I don't want to compare him to Ronda Rousey, because Ronda Rousey was an athlete with that background. But like what she did in her debut had that same kind of feel as what Bad Bunny did here. And it got me excited. And I know Bad Bunny's obviously not going to do any more wrestling because he's a global phenomenon, like he's going to go make his music and make millions. But he was awesome in this. And like Vogus said, no, he's actually talking about the shirts worn at WrestleMania, that there were 10 times more Bad Bunny shirts worn at Mania than any other wrestler. It must have been that demographic over there in Tampa Bay, that's for sure. But you got to give credit to Miz and Morrison. And you also got to remember that The Miz was WWE champion like a month ago. And he accepted this role to be in a tag match with a celebrity. And Damian Priest, who has never had a match at WrestleMania, they made Bad Bunny and Damian Priest look like $1 million.
Yeah, and that's a good point with Miz too. I think WWE was just like, listen, like, we're gonna make sure that you stay relevant, but you kind of do stuff like this. I mean, it's fun. I mean, the guy was just WWE champion, and I think eventually he's gonna break Jericho's Intercontinental record. I think he's like one off, or they tied.
I believe it's already been broken. I don't think he has the record anymore. I'm talking about Jericho.
Because I thought it was 8, and maybe Miz has already broken it. But moral of the story is, believe me, they're for Miz to do this, that they've rewarded him, and I think we'll continue to reward him, because that's a very underrated guy, I think, in the entire company, what he does. So, yeah, I mean, I think that they did their job, so worked out.
Yeah, and The Miz is just like, he's becoming a global star himself with the reality show and everything. And the longevity thing with him, and we've personally gotten the chance to meet him. Like, overall, you just got to be happy for a guy like that, because he's been able to accomplish so much. Easily a Hall of Famer, whatever year he goes in. Like, there's no way that The Miz is not. That's how good he has been. But the main takeaway from this match is Bad Bunny. And that is going to be the story going forward. And I just looked it up. It looks like The Miz has 8 Intercontinental Championships, as does Chris Jericho. So you were right. They are tied. Oh, wait. looks like Brent's correcting me. Y2J is still in first with 9. Maybe what I saw is incorrect. But yeah, so that means eventually he could break that record, and you think he will?
Yeah, I think he will.
Okay, so the main event from night 1, Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. Erin, this was absolutely incredible. It started off with both women just taking it all in, letting emotions take over because they are humans, you know. They're not just characters on TV, they're humans. And this is the very first time 2 African-American ladies main evented a WrestleMania. And I can honestly say this with 100% confidence. This is the best women's matchup that I have seen on a WrestleMania.
Oh, I mean, this was legit. I mean, it had all the makings of being a great match. I mean, Sasha's top of her game right now. She might be the top of the game right now.
I was going to say Brandon Walker from Barstool. He says Sasha Banks is the best wrestler right now in the world. And that's men's too. It's hard to say no.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate it. And then you got Bianca, who is just a beast. I mean, she is a beast. I mean, again, not surprised they gave her the title not long after she came up to WWE or came up to the main roster. So, again, it was great. That hair slap. Oh my God.
I was going to say, talk about booking a finish. They go with the whip that probably could have been heard 2 blocks down the road from the stadium. Like, you can't fake that shit. That's real. And you saw it on Sasha's body afterwards. And then it led into Bianca's finisher, the 1, 2, 3. The crowd goes absolutely crazy. You could see the ringside was going absolutely nuts. And like Vogus said, an absolute banger of a match. You just can't ask for a better main event at a WrestleMania. And it's just awesome to see 2 talented ladies like Sasha Banks and Bianca have that moment.
Yep. And it's just Sasha Banks putting over Bianca. I mean, she was already red hot, but giving her that strap, giving her the title, puts her over. Now she's a main event player. I mean, she is. I mean, she was fantastic. So very curious to see where they go from there. But all in all, delivered as a main event.
I don't know if you saw the video too that was surfacing on Twitter, but Sasha was like smiling.
Yeah.
Ringside after the match. Like, that's just cool. Like, that's just being humans. And she's reacting. Let's see what Vogus has to say. Oh, I agree. Banks. I know I've been saying Charlotte is the GOAT, but I'm starting to think Sasha Banks might be the GOAT. I mean, it's a topic.
It's for sure there. I mean, and again, you're debating the 2 GOATs in the same era. That just goes to show what the bar is for the women right now, and it's great. I mean,
they just don't set the bar, Erin. They are the bar.
Oh, Jesus.
Bianca, first wrestler since Brock Lesnar to main event her WrestleMania debut, and it delivered. That's a nice little stat there from Ryan Vogus. Yeah, she is a star.
Hold on.
What did you do?
Another drink.
Oh, okay. I'll let you go make another drink, and mind-blowing for sure as Brent chimes in. If you're watching this live, I appreciate you. You are a big reason why we continue to do podcasts and do live shows. So shout out to you, Vogus. Shout out to you, Erica. Brent, you're always here now. I'm greatly appreciative of you guys tuning in live. And if you're listening to this at a later date, thank you. Give us a retweet. Follow us on Twitter at PodOnTheMark. That is where you're going to get all the links to all of our podcast episodes. But we're going to move things over here to night 2 of WrestleMania. I talked about this on my blog, and you can go ahead and check that out. otsportsnetwork.wixsite.com/OTSN is where you're going to be able to find that. I kind of broke down a lot of WrestleMania 2 on my own, so I will let Erin kind of share most of his opinions when it comes to that. Oh, Mikey Wilson, I forgot you're in here. I appreciate you too. You are a loyal listener of ours. But let's talk about the first matchup here, Erin. The Fiend taking on Randy Orton. I talked about this on my blog. Like I said, the only cool thing I thought about this was the entrance that we got from The Fiend. And I just want to ask you this question. How does one RKO finish The Fiend when Rollins hit 12 curb stomps at Crown Jewel or whatever it was, and it still didn't work? Like, what's up with that booking of that finish?
I just think that The Fiend is such a unique character that I think got so over that the company has no idea what to do with him. They just don't. Because, again, they got booed out of the stadium when he lost to, Rollins in that, red cage. It was Hell in a Cell. When we all thought he was going to win.
It was Rollins, yeah.
So then everybody's like, well, put the title on him. Then he gets the title on him, and it's like,
Goldberg takes
he's the champ. So, again, but coming into this match, I thought he was going to beat Orton. I'm pretty right. So, again, all I'm saying is this Alexa Bliss thing better be big, because I don't think, if it's not big, I don't think it justifies what happened. And one RKO, like, it's one thing, like, have him take the RKO and kick out and still look at Alexa Bliss. Then have Randy hit another RKO, have him kick out. You know what I mean? Like, something better. So I have no idea. It almost seemed like a last minute decision, to where it was like, okay, we just want Orton to win for some reason. I don't know. All I'm saying is this Alexa Bliss thing better be worth it, because otherwise I think the Fiend's credibility is starting to slowly go down, in my opinion. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. And yeah, Mikey, you're right. You are forgetting that the 3 most devastating letters in wrestling are not the curb stomp. They are the RKO. That is what Michael Cole would say.
I'm not trying to downplay the RKO, but it's one.
He's joking around. I know.
Oh, I know. But I'm just saying, like, I love Orton. I think he's the best he's ever been. But in terms of what he's doing right now,
maybe it was just their way of, they knew that this story has ran its course. And they're like, we just need this to end soon. Get it over with. Yeah. Make Randy look good. Hit an RKO, and we can move on. It looks like they're moving on in the direction of maybe Bray versus Alexa in some form. And she's bringing in this Lily character. I don't know if that means there's another wrestler coming in. The first one that came to mind was like Nikki Cross, since they kind of had their thing and they were formerly tag team champions.
Man, you know what would be great? And I know that it probably won't happen, because I know we've seen the rumors that they're doing vignettes already. But imagine if, like, she brought in Aleister Black.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be dope. But again, no idea where they're going with this. I really don't. So, and they're like making her like the ringleader again. I mean, he said
maybe she like stole his powers and that like demonic energy.
I don't know. Like,
yeah, we don't know that for sure too. She's never identified as Sister Abigail. So
who knows?
I'm not sure. It was a confusing way to start. Like Brent said, maybe they're just stupid, and that's why they booked it that way, which could be the case.
Very possible.
Mikey goes, we need Randy to lose triple threat tomorrow. Sometimes when Mikey says things, I don't know what he's getting at, and that's just the moral of that.
That triple threat already happened, wasn't it? Between Randy, Braun, and
Drew won.
Yeah,
Mikey, come on. Come on, Mikey. After that, Nia and Shayna retained the tag team championships. Once again, I got nothing to say, Aaron. What about you?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing at all.
We can move on from that. We'll just act like the women's tag division didn't happen. But after that, Kevin Owens, he defeated Sami Zayn. Night 2 desperately needed that spark after the way that it started with those first 2 matches, and they got it here. You know, whenever these two get together, at the worst, it's a very good match. And overall, I think it was good. It was a little shorter on time, but I guess for in the middle of the card on WrestleMania Night 2, very solid match, right?
Yeah, it did its job. I mean, honestly, I think it's just they have no idea what to do with either of these guys. So, hey, let's throw 2 guys that have amazing ring chemistry together, and we know we'll put something good together. And it was good. I mean, I have no complaints about it whatsoever. The stunner Logan Paul took was horrible. But,
I was going to say, that's a cool way to get a pop, though. Like, get the celebrity involved.
You knew it was coming. Just have him take that stunner. But, again, it did its job. I mean, you put these 2 together, and they're going to put together, like you said, at worst, a great match, and that's what it was. So,
I'm curious on what's next for Kevin Owens.
I've been wondering that for like 2 years.
Because it seems like they keep just moving him from feud to feud, but it's not a feud with any belt on the line or really anything substantial attached to it. It's just kind of like, oh, you attacked me, I'm going after you, or you hit me with Sammy's case with a boot, and that's it. You know.
Honestly, and you know how Vince is with these big, strong guys. I just don't think he thinks that Kevin Owens fits that mold, and I think he's just going to have him there to be, to do whatever, because he obviously has confidence enough to be solid. But again, like what do you do with him here?
I know this will never happen, and this is Mikey Wilson fantasy booking right here. Okay. I would love Kevin Owens to go back to NXT and take on Kyrian Cross.
You know what? He might be a guy that needs to do it. Just go back there. But at the same time, he would get God. He was when he showed up at War Games. I mean, that pop. I mean,
we were there.
Love him down there.
Yeah, we were there. It was insane. Brent's right. He had so much going for him after his feud with Shane, and it seemed like the crowd was really getting emotionally attached to Kevin Owens, and they never really capitalized on it, which is very true. But good for Kevin Owens to get a win here. He desperately needed that one. After that, Sheamus, we found out, would be the new United States champion after defeating Riddle. Erin, I know you and I have discussed this before. Neither of us are huge fans of Sheamus, but he's got to be one of the most reliable and consistent workers on the roster, wouldn't you say?
I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, so it's I know he's tough to work with in the ring in terms of like he throws them. He really throws those hits at you. So, but again, like you said, I mean, the guy's always around. You can rely on him. I was sort of surprised that he beat Riddle. I don't know.
I was too. I don't know why I was, but I was.
I just figured you might want to give Riddle a little more credibility. I thought that was the whole point of putting this together. But
right.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I guess
maybe it was a way of awarding Sheamus, since he he had a nice little stopgap feud with Drew McIntyre going into WrestleMania. So they're like, Vogus virtually just said kind of what I was getting at. Sheamus was a key to the Drew and Bobby feud. He's been an MVP. I think that was his reward. Yep. Yeah. That definitely is a fair reason. And Riddle's got time to develop a little more in him on the chase. Could be something. I just want to see maybe something a little more serious from Riddle. You know, like I get the gimmick, and you need that kind of funny, happy-go-lucky guy. He's like the modern day RVD, but less cool.
Right.
But like, we know he was an MMA guy. Like, he's a legit fighter. I want to see that more, you know?
Right. And again, I think it was just establishing himself on the main roster, and then maybe he can flip. I don't know. Maybe he'll continue to feud with Sheamus. I'm not incredibly sure.
Yeah, why not?
And then maybe he flips after Sheamus just keeps beating the crap out of him and switch or something like that. I don't know, but I agree with you. I know what they're trying to do. You need guys and girls like that bring that entertainment value to where it's not like so serious, but at the same time, like, you need some credibility there, and you need to be taken serious at some point. And so maybe they'll flip the switch. I don't know.
Yeah, and they got time. They got time to figure out Riddle, but I'm okay with Sheamus winning. And I thought that finish was very cool as Sheamus hit the bro kick while Riddle was trying to do that moonsault. That was a very innovative way to finish that matchup. So, yeah, overall, I would say a very good United States Championship match. After that, the Intercontinental Championship match, Apollo Crews, with the assist from Dabo Kato, defeated Big E to win the Intercontinental Championship. I thought, Erin, this was a very high-paced matchup. The action was very quick and to the point, and it's exactly what you need, I think, out of a mid-card title feud, especially on this loaded WrestleMania card here. Apollo Crews goes over. Thoughts on him winning this matchup?
I thought it was just textbook booking. I mean, I think you don't recreate Apollo just to have him lose this match, but you also want Big E to look strong, or not strong, but not look weak coming out of it. So what do? They bring in a distraction, an interference where Apollo wins the title, but Big E doesn't look weak losing it. I thought that this was your textbook booking.
Yeah,
that's what Smart. This was. Get a new character over while keeping the guy that they have a lot of.
Do you like this new character?
His Nigerian accent it's like Kofi's Jamaican accent. It's just like, it's not legit, so it's like I can't really buy into it. But
I like him having a body though, like Dabo Kato.
Oh, I 100% agree. I don't even know. They don't even need the accent. You can just say he's Nigerian, and I'd believe you. And have Kato be his muscle, even though Apollo Crews is jacked as shit.
Yeah.
And roll with it. So the accent I am not a big fan of, but again, I don't mind reinventing guys like Apollo Crews that was going nowhere, and then they reinvent him and he turns into something. So
can confirm there were 0 Nigerian drums used in this match. So I don't know why they called it that.
I don't know what it was.
Mikey's asking where was he on Raw. I believe he's talking about Sheamus. Yeah, Sheamus wasn't even on Raw,
neither was Styles, wasn't he?
No, neither was Omos. Vogue is chiming in. Legit fighter characters never get over. I don't think Riddle needs a legit fighter character. I just think he could play both sides of that spectrum, where if somebody really pisses him off, there's a flip of the switch, you know? So he could still be that happy-go-lucky high guy in the back room. But, like Mikey said, here's your title, go sit in catering. And Vogus says he's Killmonger from Black Panther, comparing him to Apollo Crews.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the gimmick they're getting at there. So yeah, new champions with the mid-card titles, Sheamus and Apollo Crews. So we got 2 more matchups here, Aaron. Rhea Ripley defeated Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. I was very excited going into this matchup, but honestly, after what we saw, I really didn't care much for it. What says you?
That's actually pretty funny that you say that, because I agree. I didn't really care for it either. I just thought it was meh.
Well, let me ask you this question. Do you think it was because the previous night's main event was just so good that the bar was too high? Or was the placement maybe on the card wrong? Like, what should this matchup maybe kicked off WrestleMania?
Well, no, I think giving Drew and Lashley that kickoff match was the total.
No, this was night 2.
I'm sorry.
Fiend.
Yeah, but I don't. But I agree with them kicking off with that too, just with the Fiends and with all that going on. So I wouldn't say it was because Bianca and Sasha had such a great match. I don't know what it was. Maybe they just don't have good chemistry together. Maybe it's like for me. Wasn't Charlotte supposed to be in that match?
Rumors say so. I mean, we can't confirm that. Maybe it wasn't.
How'd you feel about the build to it?
It was last minute because Rhea just showed up on a Raw and was like, "You." Asuka was like, "Yes," and then we were like, "WrestleMania."
That's exactly what it felt like. Something that was just put together.
Like, yeah, Brent said it. This match had no storyline.
Exactly, and I think that's why you couldn't really buy into it. It was just something that was just thrown together, and here you go. But I'm glad that Rhea won because she's legit, and like you said, I think she's only 24 years old.
Insane to think about.
Right, right, and her match with Charlotte in front of no fans, I thought was really good too. So she's got it. So I'm all for it. So, but I think that was the reason why there was that disconnect, because I think it was just something that was just thrown together, and it was like, here you go, and it's like, okay, well, I can't really buy into this.
They could have been short on time too. We never really know how things are planned out, so they could have had to rush some spots, and then it all just came off weird. And then they had a match on Raw too, and it wasn't great. So it could be a chemistry issue too.
Yeah,
going on there. Not everybody clicks. It's just just how things are. And yeah. Bogus chiming in. It was a 2-week build. Everyone knew Rhea was winning. No real excitement around it.
Yeah.
Runner-up prize for the Rumble. Yeah, that's virtually what it was, Mikey Wilson. So anything else from that match that you want to talk about?
Not really. I'm just curious to see where they go again with Rhea. It's a new champ, just like Bianca, a new face, new champ, and just see how they...
Well, let's talk about the new champs. I know you saw pictures probably of it, but Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley showing up on NXT this Tuesday with Raquel. What a sight to see right there. Wasn't that awesome?
Cool. And again, I think that's just homage to Triple H.
That's all Papa H
thing. And it's just his work paying off, all the work that he puts in. It was just really cool to see. Yeah, they're awesome. They're all awesome.
Yeah, and Brent said it perfectly. It is a new era. Definitely in the women's division. It is definitely a new era. And they have the best women's division from the main roster to NXT.
Not even close.
Absolutely outstanding. And it's crazy because when we started watching wrestling, the Divas were a joke.
Oh, it was bad. I mean, it was really bad. I think literally the best thing I can remember from us watching back in the day was when Paige and AJ Lee would feud. And
AJ and Caitlyn, that wasn't bad either.
Yeah. But I mean, the bar and the expectations were so low, and I'm glad that they're literally equal with the men now. The expectations. I mean, they're literally equal.
Lately, they've been better.
Oh, they have been. They've been fantastic. And I think, again, that goes with what I said to begin off with like the Iconics. And I agree that they shouldn't have gotten fired because I think they were a great tag team. But again, I think the bar is so high for the women now that, that's just where it's at, and it's great. So.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And Ryan Vogus is right. WrestleMania is where legends are born. People do forget that. They don't say that enough on WrestleMania. That is where legends are born for sure. We had a couple of legends, though, in the main event of night 2 for the Universal title, the triple threat. It doesn't get much better than this, Aaron. Edge, Daniel Bryan, and Roman Reigns. If I would have told you 5 years ago that Edge and Daniel Bryan would be in the main event of WrestleMania and Roman Reigns beat them, how would you have reacted to it?
5 years ago, I don't know, but 5 minutes ago or 5 seconds ago, I totally understand it because the big dog is the big dog, Tribal Chief. That guy is on another level. He's in a different planet. He's in a different galaxy. This guy is untouchable. And I mean, and it's not just the booking. It's a credit to him. He has the look. he's improved his mic skills tremendously over the years. I know he got so much heat for that. He's a great worker. You never really hear about it, but the guy has main evented what now, 4 or 5 WrestleMania?
More than that. I think he's at like 6 or 7.
And the guy has not delivered a bad match yet. It doesn't matter who's in the ring with him. The guy is just fantastic. And the main event delivered. It was great. I mean, it was great.
Yeah. Match of the week / weekend. I agree with Vogus. Would you say this was the match of the weekend?
Oh, yeah. What Vogus just said, this was big fight feel. I mean, you got Daniel Bryan, who's been built well enough all his career.
Hall of Famer.
Edge, who speaks for himself. And then you have Roman Reigns, who's literally, I think, the top wrestler in the world right now. So, big fight feel, and the big dog makes a statement.
Yeah, I agree with Brent. I think about this match a lot ever since it happened. It was definitely my match of the year so far. Granted, it is an early year in 2021. I don't know if it saved, and maybe for you, Vogus, yeah, you said it saved night 2 for me. I still was entertained by night 2, but it definitely helped. I think it took night 2 from a C, an average show, to a B.
Agreed.
So only title that didn't change on night 2. Oh, that's a nice little factoid too. The Universal Championship was the only title that did not change on night 2. Mikey Wilson chiming in the comments. I think going into this one too, Aaron, most of us could have seen either one of these guys winning. Like you could have wrote a story for Daniel Bryan, Edge as champion, but Roman Reigns winning after the result happened, I just think to myself, it made so much sense.
Oh, yeah. Deep down in my gut, I was like, you can't have him lose because I think it just ruins, not ruins, but puts the level a little lower on what he's built with this new tribal chief thing with Paul Heyman. But him winning and the way he won, I mean, this guy, it puts him on a level that I can't recall anybody being at in the times that
not in the modern era.
Wrestling.
Not in the modern
Not
era.
even Cena. I mean, Cena hasn't been booked to this level. I personally don't think. So it's like, and I don't know if you want to talk about this now, if you want to talk about this in a couple of minutes, kind of where they go with that. Because
yeah, well, I'll just say this. Let's go off of the finish. Nonstop action throughout. Like if you haven't rewatched this matchup, you're missing out because you might have missed something. The finish where Roman literally dragged Edge, dragged him in the ring on top of Daniel Bryan. Chef's kiss to a perfect main event.
Yep. I mean, that's the visual right there. I mean, that's just, I've just dominated both of you, and I am going to pin both of you. I mean, that was clearly made to be a statement, obviously, the way that they booked it. And so it's like they want Roman to be booked like this guy is unbeatable.
Well, like Vogus said, when Roman does lose, it's going to feel like when Brock Lesnar loses because that rarely happens the way they build him up.
Agree. Like, I totally agree. But here then I guess that kind of leads into the next question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who do you think's next for the tribal chief?
I'm not even really worried about who's next.
Who can stop him?
Right. And again, with the way that he's been booked, this has to be something serious. It has to be something really serious. And you want to know what my perfect scenario is that just rolls in my mind?
I'm actually curious on where you're at here.
He's got to hold it to next WrestleMania, in my opinion. I think they got to give him that long of a dominating thing. Who is the one guy that I could see winning that title, making this just making this match like the biggest match of all time?
There's your answer.
Fuck you, Vogus. He's the worst. Goldberg is the worst.
Vogus said Goldberg for those listening at a later date.
That's such a momentum killer. Anyway. I mean, the way you could build this stuff, who's the one guy? What do you think is going around in my head? I've said it before on the show.
John Cena.
There it is. To win the 17th title, to break Ric Flair's record.
I'm with you.
Build that up to WrestleMania. I mean, it's almost like they did the same thing with The Rock, where they built that thing up for so long. Have Roman, I don't care who he faces, to be honest. You could turn Seth face, and I love Seth. Turn him face, I don't care. You have him hold this thing to WrestleMania, and you book Roman Reigns with it'd be close to a two-year reign versus John Cena. To break the Ric Flair's title, put that together. I mean, that's money right there. The story you could build off that with Heyman you can have Heyman. It's amazing. That's what I think they need to do. It's the only thing I could think of.
The thought crossed my mind, but when you think about it realistically, as much as we love Seth Rollins and him turning face would be great to face Roman, I don't think he's ready to beat Roman right now.
No.
If Edge and Daniel Bryan can't beat Roman, why should they? What's the longest reign of the modern era, Mikey asked? I think it's CM Punk, isn't it?
Punk.
Yeah. I believe it's CM Punk, but yeah.
It is.
I know Brent's in agreement with us. We've talked about this multiple times. John Cena is the GOAT, or at least one of the GOATs.
Right.
So the fact that you have the record-breaking title reign happen against the Tribal Chief in the main event of WrestleMania 38
in Dallas,
how do you do better than that?
I mean, it writes itself. And I mean, again, like it literally is just all there for something that could be like the main event of all WrestleManias. I mean, this thing is, you're talking breaking Ric Flair's title record, which is, that's the most prestigious record. I mean, maybe the Undertaker streak, I don't know, whatever you want to call the most prestigious record in WWE history, but that's big time. And then you have Roman Reigns, who has maybe the reign and the run of the modern era clash at WrestleMania. Oh man. I mean, that's what I see. That's how I see you could take this. Now, granted, will they follow suit? Who knows? But moral of the story, I think we're both in agreement on. Whoever takes that belt from Roman, good God, it better be worth it.
Vogus chimes in saying Cena's gone Hollywood. They all come back. They all come back.
They are going to have him break that record eventually. Maybe it's not this WrestleMania, but they're not going to have Cena and Flair tied. They're not, in my opinion.
If it's not Cena, I think it's Randy Orton that breaks the record. I think one of those two guys should be the guy because, when you're talking about the last 20 years, those are the faces of the company right there.
Oh,
those two guys. Dude's in Fast and Furious and Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
I
know.
But hey,
a year from now.
Well, what if The Rock is the guy for Roman Reigns? No. Everybody's talked about The Rock coming back, the family ties and everything. What if The Rock's the guy to beat Roman?
I would love The Rock to come back and lose to Roman. Not in WrestleMania. Maybe comes back for, I don't know, wherever the fuck pay-per-view he wants to come back on. Have him lose. Why would no? You don't want to tie.
Records are meant to be broken.
Right.
That's the way I look at things. And I think to build legacies, I think they eventually want someone to beat Ric Flair.
You don't have John Cena get to 16 where he's at right now, where he's got plenty left in the tank, and not have him win it. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. So I think he's going to eventually break it. And I mean, come on, Roman, Cena, WrestleMania.
You couldn't go wrong there. But I think they have a lot to Vogus, I agree. If it's not Cena, give it to Randy Orton. Yeah. If it's not Cena, Randy Orton would be the guy that I would want.
Cool.
I would definitely agree with you there. But Roman has enough to get to next WrestleMania with Kevin Owens maybe again, Cesaro, Seth Rollins. I mean,
Big E's going to get into that too.
Big E, yes, Big E for sure. Aleister Black. He's on SmackDown. He's filming vignettes right now. There is a lot of ways to get there, but I just don't see how he does lose before next WrestleMania.
Curious thought, and you would probably know more than I do because I don't know the whole off situation that's going on. But for some reason, for me, there's like that elephant in the room with Brock Lesnar. He just leaves. I mean, the whole Heyman thing, they split up, and you really don't know. I mean, you don't know what it is. I'm sure it's something to do with contractual issues where Brock's done, and they're like, all right, let's put Heyman with Roman. It's a great idea. But I'm very curious if that peeks its head back within the next year.
Full circle, and then Paul Heyman's like the centerpiece with the title in the feud.
He had the same thing with Punk, right? When he turned on Punk?
Yeah, Brock babyface run against Heyman.
Yeah.
I think the crowd would get behind Brock.
Oh, I think so too.
Towards the end of his run, I don't mind that either. Feed me monster babyface Brock. I think that's money in itself. Yep. And if you think of past WrestleMania's main events, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns they deliver every time they go out there. Granted, Seth Rollins got involved in one or if not a couple.
You forgot that that was on the best WrestleMania and best WrestleMania moment. I saw that. I kind of want to talk about
I deleted it because of the WWE releases, but I guess I could ask you, and if you're watching live right now, I want to hear your favorite WrestleMania moment that you have witnessed. Not in person, just in general.
So I'm going to give you both. Best WrestleMania I've seen and best WrestleMania moment. So obviously I have to take this into context because I wasn't alive. Well, not that I wasn't alive, but I was so young back when it was like WrestleMania. Was it when Austin and Rock faced it night? And then it was the Hardy. Like I wasn't cognizant of what was going on there, so I can't.
We were probably like 13 or something.
Right, exactly. So favorite WrestleMania 31 at Levi Stadium when Rollins cashed in to win the championship. You had Sting versus Triple H when DX and NWO came out. Orton versus Rollins was awesome. Cena, Rusev. I thought that WrestleMania knocked it out of the park. Favorite moment, I think it's got to be Daniel Bryan winning the championship at WrestleMania because that story was so well built. I mean, that was one of the, and that's another good one. Kofi Mania, I also agree.
Kofi Mania was great, and
but the way they built that Daniel Bryan story, I mean, that thing was built up for a year. I mean, it was
player
for so long, and it was. You got behind the underdog, and you were like, "Holy crap, this is great!" And then he beats Triple H, gets his ass beat, and then goes into the triple threat, gets carted off, comes back, and wins the titles as the ultimate underdog. I thought it was and he was the most over guy. I mean, in a while. I mean, was there anybody more over in that run than Daniel Bryan?
Organically from the crowd? No,
exactly.
Like, you've never seen anything like that, and it seems like everybody watching live is in agreement that it's either Kofi Mania or Daniel Bryan's run for WrestleMania 30.
The Undertaker feeling.
Undertaking losing is, I am with you. That's one of those things where you're going to know where you were. You're going to know your reaction. Me and you were sitting right next to each other in my basement in Bloomington, Indiana, stunned. Just absolutely silent.
Yep. That was something crazy.
ECW Originals versus the New Breed. I'm not sure about that. Mikey Wilson, I don't know what you're talking about because I didn't watch before then. Like I said, Brent, Kofi Mania, and WrestleMania 30. WrestleMania 30 was probably my favorite. That was also Cena and Bray Wyatt, I believe, with Legacy.
Right. I'm trying to think what else was going on during that. So that was the year after Levi. So what?
No, it was the year before Levi.
Or I'm sorry, before. Yeah, you're right. What was? Why am I forgetting what else was in that?
You had Cena and Bray, like I said. You had that main event. You had The Undertaker losing.
Okay.
Like, that just had so much going on
it. So then they talked about who had to follow that main event, and who was it that had to follow that? Because that wasn't the main event.
What I thought the main event was Daniel Bryan.
In 30?
Yeah, Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Randy Orton, I thought was the main event.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Duh. Wait, Lesnar did not beat Undertaker that night. That was not the same Mania.
I thought it was.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure it was. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think that was the same Mania because everybody was so Bryan versus Triple H. Yeah, was the opener. Yeah, he goes that was the opener.
Wow.
Yeah. I believe that was the same WrestleMania.
Holy shit, that's a pretty good Mania.
That's why I'm saying WrestleMania 30.
That's good.
It was
good.
Loaded. Yeah, same Mania. It can confirm. So,
okay.
But that was my favorite WrestleMania. WrestleMania 37, from the Manias I've seen, I loved WrestleMania 28 with the end of the era Hell in a Cell match.
Awesome.
That was awesome. The first John Cena versus The Rock. That was great.
Okay, good one.
CM Punk, Chris Jericho, I believe, was on that.
Yeah, when he smashed the bottle of Jack Daniels over his head. Because they did that he was a addict, drunk,
that was,
sort of angle.
That was pretty good.
I agree with you. That was a real solid. That end of an era match in the Hell in a Cell was awesome.
It's hard to think of better moments, though, than like Kofi Mania and Daniel Bryan winning. Because those are two guys that everybody could agree on. This is our guy. He deserves this moment, and he got that moment.
And with the Daniel Bryan thing, I just have never been more invested in a feud in my entire life in wrestling than I was at that Daniel Bryan thing. I thought it was insane. I mean, it was just awesome. It was just a true underdog story. It's like, okay, the underdog's going to win, but the way they built it, they beat him down and beat him down and beat him down for months on months on months.
For that payoff. It's all about the payoff.
The longest feuds or the longest builds always turn out to be the best. And again, I think that's
why I always tell people to be patient, because you never know where a storyline is heading. And in that instance, that was definitely, I 100% agree on WrestleMania 30.
That was a good one. That's a good one.
Very good. DB was our Austin going against the Machine. Yep.
Yeah.
That is the exact comparison right there. So I think that is a good thing to finish the show with. Overall grade, though, for you for WrestleMania 37, I think we both can agree night 1 was better than night 2.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree there.
But overall, if you had to give it like a letter grade, what would you give it as an entirety?
In its entirety, I'm going to give it a B. I think it was a solid B. I thought
that's low.
I don't know. Like, I thought the Fiend Orton disappointed in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought Asuka and Rhea disappointed in my opinion. I thought the 2 main events were great, but that's what you expect from main events, to be great. And then it was just like,
you're higher than Brent is. He said B-.
I just thought that, there was just some low points and some things I had higher expectations on. And that's going to happen, but at the same time, it was, I don't know. I think a B is okay. I mean, I don't think it's bad, but I'm not going to give it an A. I know what an A WrestleMania is. I think we've talked about a couple of them. I don't put it there.
I'm probably saying an A-, B+. And I think a lot of it has to do with all that we went through over the past year. Right. And then we finally get this moment in front of the fans, and to see and hear about reactions from Vogus and how the crowd is reacting to everything. It might have influenced it, and it might have made our viewing pleasure a little bit better. But Vogus agrees. I think he's with me, comparing it to other Manias, A-. That's about where I'm at. And I think it is fair what Brent said at the start of night 2 dragged it down, because those first 2, they were not great, and they didn't have that WrestleMania feel to it. But overall, very sports entertained, right?
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to complain here. We got fans. You're not always going to agree with what WWE does, and sometimes we're wrong with, and they take it in a direction that it turns out to be great. So we'll see. But again, I'm not going to sit here and harp on the first WrestleMania with fans that we've had since 2 years ago. So
the only thing I'm going to be negative about is the Raw after WrestleMania. It was
horrible.
It did not feel like that. And I know I tweeted about this and everybody probably saw it, but going from 26,000 people sold out WrestleMania to a Thunderdome, it's not the same.
I want to think optimistically. My only optimistic thought is that SmackDown's going to be a banger. That'd be my only optimistic thought, is that because again,
I kind of want to watch SmackDown Live just to see what's next for Roman Reigns.
What is next for Roman Reigns? It's a great question.
Hey, that is a great question. I guess we will find out tomorrow. Erin, any final remarks in regards to wrestling right now? It could be AEW related, the releases and whatnot.
Honestly, if I've had to say one thing with WWE, it's have Roman hold that belt for as long as possible, because this guy is literally untouchable. What they've done with him is genius, and you got to give Triple H and Vince credit, because again, they put the rocket boosters on this guy, and a lot of people were like, "Why?" And now you see why. And God, do I hope that him and Cena see each other again, but we'll see. But again, we'll see where that goes. It's always interesting to see where they go after WrestleMania, so we'll see what happens.
My usual full-time co-host, he always says it's a great time to be a wrestling fan, and I think he's definitely right, and I'm going to say that. It is a great time to be a wrestling fan, especially with the latest switch. Like Brent mentioned, NXT on Tuesday was everything that Monday Night Raw wasn't. Yes, that is true. Ryan Vogus ending this live stream. See you in Dallas next year. Yes, we're trying to get this guy. Where you at? I can't figure it. Right here to go to WrestleMania.
I think I'm going to honestly go, to be honest.
We got to make a weekend out.
I've been wanting to go, and if they do WrestleMania Access too, I think that would be kind of cool to do too.
Brent, we're looking at you, man. Brent, just join us. We're all going. T-Walk, Erin,
I've been wanting to go forever, and you know what? Why not go to Jerry's place? No.
I feel like we got to go, and especially you, because you're closer to a family than I am. I want to go before I have more responsibilities,
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot easier for now to take a weekend out and enjoy some wrestling. And like Vogus said, this was his very first one attending. It was like wrestling and the 4th of July all tied into one, which sounds like a blast, right? The wife said yes to Brent, so Brent's joining us too. It's going to be a fucking party in Dallas.
God, Vogus must have been super drunk if the 4th was tied into WrestleMania.
He was. I can tell you some stories after we end this live stream, but that's all we have for you guys this week. Erin, I want to thank you for joining me, and thank you all who watched live. Brent, Erica, Bogus, and Mikey, you are greatly appreciated. And to those who are listening at a later date, thank you for listening to the On the Mark Wrestling podcast.